What's happening here in the Middle East is having a worldwide impact. The price of gasoline has jumped up since the start of the war last weekend. For more on that, let's bring in Money Watch correspondent and CBS Saturday Morning co-anchor Kelly O'Grady.
Tony, U.S. consumers are already feeling the impact of the conflict with Iran. In just 1 week, the national average for a gallon of regular is up about 22 cents. And yesterday saw the biggest single-day increase since March 2022. Now, that spike 4 years ago came right after Russia invaded Ukraine. The resulting surge in oil prices helped push gas to a record $5.01. Now, the U.S. is less reliant on foreign oil than we were in 2022, but analysts still warn crude could top $100 a barrel, depending on how long this lasts. Now, a big pressure point, the Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the world's oil and gas moves through that choke point. And those arrows you see, those are ships. And since the conflict began, traffic has ground to a halt as the route turns more dangerous. Now, to help ease fears of attacks on oil tankers, the Trump administration is offering naval escorts and insurance for shippers. Oil markets calmed on that news, while the details of how that will work are hammered out. But another risk, Iranian attacks on energy infrastructure across the region. Production has paused in some places, and that doesn't come back overnight. Tony?
As gas prices rise, California is feeling pain at the pump more than any other state in this country. CBS's Andres Gutierrez in Los Angeles explains why. Andres, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. Just take a look at the prices on this sign. Everything is above $5, just showing a painful reminder of how fast this is all moving. Drivers I spoke with tell me that they are paying more, getting less, and feel like there is no relief in sight. While the rest of the country is paying around $3.45 for a gallon of gas, AAA says in California it's more than $5, a jump of more than 50 cents in just a week.
I'm paying $40, but that doesn't get me a full tank anymore.
Before the war with Iran, California was already in a tough spot.
A unique market that is essentially cut off from the rest of the country.
The state has the highest gas tax in the country, almost 70 cents a gallon. It also requires a cleaner, more expensive fuel blend. What did you think about the prices when you first pulled up?
Well, the prices are nuts.
With the permanent shutdown of 2 major California refineries due to high operating costs and other factors, overall capacity will be reduced about 18%. If this conflict continues, how high could gas prices go?
Well, it's very difficult to see what the top may look like. We could ultimately see prices reaching new records if the Strait of Hormuz continues to be blocked.
Some drivers are already changing their habits.
It's part of the reason why I have my bike here is because it's cheaper.
Now, for drivers wondering how much higher prices will get, well, the record here in Los Angeles was set back in 2022, just as Russia's war in Ukraine was getting underway. Back then, drivers were paying almost $6.50 a gallon. Jerika?
That's a lot of money. Andres Gutierrez, thank you.
On that point, we're going to turn to the surging gas prices. A major shipping route for oil has effectively been shut down amid this war, sending shockwaves through the markets, with gas jumping nationwide from an average of $2.92 in Kansas to more than $5 a gallon in California. CBS News business and tech correspondent Jolene Kent is tracking this for us tonight.
The reality of the war in Iran is showing up at gas stations nationwide.
The gas prices going up is very frustrating.
Prices have shot up about 50 cents a gallon in just the last week.
Just watching the gas prices go from like $3.20 all the way up to $3.80 has been really scary.
Drone attacks on refineries in the Middle East and a choke point for ships in the Strait of Hormuz, where a fifth of the world's oil is typically shipped, are affecting supply. CBS's Imtiaz Tayyab is nearby in Qatar.
Well, there's real panic here in the Gulf tonight as the Strait of Hormuz, which is just off these shores, remains effectively closed. And as oil-rich countries slow production, the fear is the cost of a barrel of oil could soon hit $150.
And it's not just drivers feeling the pain. The price of diesel is up nearly $1 a gallon. That drives up the cost of farming and consumer goods and could send inflation higher.
I'm thinking about the diesel that goes in every tractor, truck, and combine on our farm.
Megan Kaiser is a soy and corn farmer and soil scientist in Missouri.
You're in planting season right now. Fuel is costing you more. What does that do to your business?
Well, it automatically dips into our margins, which were already tight. And so it is a concern. And the timeliness of we have to plant when the weather is right, when the soil is right. We don't have a lot of options on waiting for fuel prices to change.
Oil prices did settle well below $100 a barrel today. This comes as the G7 energy ministers plan to meet tomorrow to discuss possibly releasing some of that strategic oil reserve to relieve some of that pricing pressure.
President Trump spent the afternoon working to soothe worries about how the war might drag on the economy, telling our local CBS affiliate in Cincinnati that yo-yoing oil prices will be coming down soon. CBS Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is traveling with the president. Nancy, good evening. What else did he say?
Well, Tony, President Trump technically came here to Kentucky to talk about drug prices, but he couldn't ignore the concerns about rising oil prices, which, as we learned today, are already starting to take a toll on some local companies.
Operation Epic Fury!
Here in Hebron, Kentucky, President Trump led a pep rally of sorts for the war.
They don't know what the hell hit them, right?
But across the river in Cincinnati, he acknowledged what many Americans are worried about right now: the war-induced spike in gas prices.
Oil will be coming down. That's just a matter of war. That happens you can almost predict it. I would say it went up a little bit less than we thought. It's going to come down more than anybody understands.
Since the war started, the average U.S. price of a gallon of gas has risen 20%. The price of a gallon of diesel has spiked even more, by 28%. And that's putting the squeeze on producers.
We take the rolls and cut them into sheets.
Ed Zumbiel runs one of America's largest family-owned packaging companies. He ships 100,000 tons of finished packaging all around the country every year. Have you already seen your transportation prices start to go up?
Yeah, we're seeing what they call diesel fuel charges or surcharges being added to our invoices from the trucking companies. And we expect those to continue until a month after the war in Iran dies down.
He says he can only absorb the costs for so long before he has to pass them on.
If you have companies like Zumbiel and a million others doing the same thing, what that happens is consumers see that price reflected in the grocery store if they're buying soft drinks, beer, ready-to-eat foods, etc. And then if prices go up, then demand goes down and the market gets soft. So that's our concern.
Interior Secretary Doug Burgum said today that U.S. oil companies will soon announce plans to increase production in response to these price spikes. But, Tony, experts we spoke to said that even if they boost production tomorrow, it will still likely take weeks before any of those changes would be felt at the pump.
More now on the war with Iran, day 13 of the fighting. President Trump has said things look good in the Strait of Hormuz, that critical exit point for about a fifth of the world's oil. But over the last 48 hours, Iran has attacked at least 6 commercial vessels, along with oil and energy facilities in Bahrain, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. And these attacks are very much tied to what you're paying for things right here in the U.S., because oil and gas prices continue to rise. Here is Money Watch correspondent and CBS Saturday Morning co-anchor Kelly O'Grady.
For American drivers, the cost of the war is already showing up at the pump. The national average for a gallon of regular just hit $3.60, up 35 cents in the last week.
I got a full-size truck and it cost me $100 to fill my tank.
It affects me from doing other things I need to do. I mean, it may take away from me buying groceries.
But there's a bigger warning light flashing for the economy: diesel. Prices are up nearly 70 cents in a week, almost $1.20 in the past month. The trucks that move much of what Americans buy run on diesel. Economists see this troubling spike as a red flag for inflation.
We've seen diesel prices increase faster than gas prices. What do you think is going to happen in terms of that impact?
These are adding to a lot of transportation costs, a lot of shipping costs, but they also seep into other costs in the economy. These are the multipliers to get to a much more broad-based increase in prices that go beyond what we see at the gas pump and showing up in things like the grocery store as well.
Rising energy costs also come as many consumers already feel crunched.
We've seen these compounding price increases that even when they slow down to be below wage gains, it's not enough to feel as good as you did prior to the pandemic.
Now, the White House is taking measures to mitigate rising oil prices, announcing that it plans to release 172 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserves. But Swonk warns that won't bring prices down. It will just slow the climb. Tony?
Yeah, prices go up a lot quicker than they come back down. And Kelly, while I have you, it's not just oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. What else could be affected?
That's right, Tony. This is a very important trade waterway. Think about aluminum. We've already seen prices go up. But one thing in particular I have my eye on, Tony, is fertilizer. A good part of the world's fertilizer comes through that. Think about farmers and how that could increase produce and things at the grocery store.